Hello everyone, I'm Shorty from Iron Resurrection, and if you ain't watching Rides Done Right, you ain't watching shit.
Hello friends, I'm Larry with Rides Done Right. I'm at the 2019 Portland Roadster Show, and I'm with Shorty from Iron Resurrection. Shorty, nice to see you.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Hey, we have got to talk about you and Iron Resurrection, but I want to actually talk about you and your shop. You have your own shop that you operate, and you don't live right beside Joe and Mandy in that shop.
Right. So what a lot of people don't know is that I've had my own shop since 1997. Prior to that, I worked for a dealership many years. I decided to put my shop up in '97. Ever since then, I've been in business. It's just something that I wanted to do. I felt like I needed to do because I didn't want to grow old in an environment where someone was going to dictate my future, and that's usually what happens when you work in a corporate big company. Once you get old, as you get older, all these young guns are coming in, and they're all shooting for your job. So I didn't want to be in that position, so that's why I took the initiative and got my own business.
How old were you when you started that business?
I was 33. I was 33. I was 33 years old, and I made when I turned 30, I was still working at the dealership, and it just, I don't know, something clicked in me, and I said, by the time I'm 33, I'm going to give myself 3 years. By the time I'm 33, I need to have my own business. I can't be here regardless of how good it's going, because it was going great. It's just that there are things that you see, and you kind of foresee them happening to you as you grow older, as you get older, So that's the reason I started my own business.
Did you accumulate tools as you were going up to that business, or did you just all of a sudden the day you started, you said, I'm going to go out and get a loan, or you had some money saved and bought it? Or
Yeah, no, that's a good question. When I decided I was going to do that in the future, I went and bought a lot. Just scouted for lots where I wanted it and stuff, and I ended up buying a lot. So I paid it off, and then I started building the building on it. So I kind of just took it in small increments. During the whole time, I was accumulating tools. So I was doing simultaneous things to be prepared.
And you were paying as you went then?
Yes. So I was paying as I went, working and paying the bills and all this stuff. My wife was still going to school at the time, so it was basically up to me to pay everything, the house and stuff like that. But I bought tools. I was paying for the land, and I was, paying for the building to go up at the same time. And to just kind of give you an idea how it started in '97. So I left my old job, and then I struggled. I struggled for about a year or so, to the point where I thought that I'd make a good choice. You know what I mean? So I began to kind of doubt myself, because it was hard. I left a good paying job to basically nothing, and then have to work your butt off to make something. And so I started to question myself. The good thing was that it's when it's your business, you feel good about it. But on the other hand, you have all these things to worry about that stress you out. So luckily, the dealership that I used to work for, some guys reached out to me, and they said, we want you to do all of our work. So they began to send me everything. So I was doing about 40 to maybe 55 cars a month for my previous employer.
Wow.
And that's what got me on my feet, and that's what paid for my shop, and that's what made me a good living.
What was, the difference to being a business owner is now you have this passion and gift for being able to paint. So just doing the work, that's not a problem. But now you have to be a businessman. You have to go out and get the customers to come in and keep them. Like in this case, now you have a venue there that they're coming to you, but you still needed to go out and get new customers for builds and things.
Sure.
How did you do that?
Yeah. So it's funny how things work. Okay. So when I opened up my shop, I struggled. It was hard to get people in there because, well, first of all, we all want it, not just anyway. We all want a good job for cheap, right? So I took in cars that really were supposed to be, $10,000, $12,000 paint jobs, and I did them for 3,000 or 4,000 just to get stuff in the door as I started. But then my dealership, my previous employer came around and they started sending me stuff. So I kind of put them to the side a little bit and started doing what made me money, what paid the bills. Although I did keep one or two projects that were lengthy, because painting a complete car, it's kind of like a restoration type of thing, and that's what they were. Those are lengthy, and you don't make a whole lot of money on them, at least back in those days. Nowadays it's a little different because you used to give people a quote versus today you do them by the hour.
Right.
So you kind of learn those things. Those are some of the things you learn along the way. And so I would keep a lengthy project on the side just to keep that end of my fans happy, or the people that I wanted to know that I could do candy paint jobs, custom work, and stuff like that. Because you can't just phase that out and then just do the little repairs.
How long does a long project take you to do? When somebody brings you one, what's a long one take to get completed?
Well, at least a year. At least a year, because you have to blow the car completely apart, do everything inside of it. In other words, work from the inside out, and that takes a long time. So you're talking months up to years, depending on the money that they're paying you. So obviously, if you have, like today, if you have one of these big paying customers that want you to work on their car every day, okay, well, there's no problem, because they're going to keep paying you. But if you gave somebody a quote for $5,000, and you work on that car, you're not going to get it done till 3 or 4 months from then, so you lose money. So you only work on it little increments, just so you can do the other jobs and make money.
That sounds smart. So your time frames are based on how much you're having to charge for that. That actually makes sense. Exactly. How many people do you have working for you then now?
Okay, so when the show started, we know that it's been 3 years. When the show started and this came about, I literally, went in and because I changed my business from doing a lot of collision, per se, to custom. Okay.
That didn't hurt your feelings, did it?
No, not at all. So I did that about 6 years ago. Okay. So when I did that, I began to work on all these custom jobs, and we're talking about full restorations by the hour. So that is pretty good, because the customer gets a good job and the shop makes money. And all of my business, I have to say, has been word of mouth or repeat customer. But when the show came about, 3 years ago, and Joe said, "Hey, man, we're doing it." I was like, "Damn, okay." That kind of like, I guess we are doing it, So I had a few projects at my shop. Because I would never saturate my shop with, just a bunch of cars that I couldn't work on them. So I always keep 2 or 3 projects that are ongoing, and that way everybody gets to be worked on, and we get the cars out.
Right.
So I reached out to those customers, and I said, "Look, this is what's going on, and I don't want to keep you waiting. You're free to put your car in wherever you like. You can keep it here at my shop till you find somebody that wants to work on it for you, that you feel comfortable, or if you want to keep it here, I'll be glad to do it, but I can't work on it like I used to."
Right.
Those customers didn't want to go anywhere. They said, "We're going to wait on you no matter what it takes." So that's what I have now in my shop, and I've been working on them slowly.
Shorty, do you see yourself getting to a point in your business where you want to build it up big and not have to do the paint stuff anymore, and you just own it and other people do the work? Or do you see yourself staying in there and being the guy who shoots, or being the guy? Are you going to be able to hand pick jobs?
Yeah, I wouldn't feel good knowing that I can't do any work. I have to be hands-on. It just has to be that way. I cannot not be hands-on. I can't walk by a car and talk about it. That's not me. I have to build and have the hands-on on that car myself.
So it's an interesting question, and I see that in you, and I really feel like Joe's that way too. where Joe
think
would
so,
want
yeah.
to stay working on his cars,
Yeah.
and you guys just as a crew don't see yourself building some empire that you spend all your time doing this kind of thing, and then now you
No.
don't really have time to work on your stuff.
No, I even if I wanted to build an empire, I probably, even if I had an empire, put it to you that way, I would still be hands-on. There's no way that I can just go and tell this guy, build me this spoiler here and paint this car like this is the color I want on it, paint it. I'd have to be the one doing it until I can no longer do it.
What is your dream build? I mean, to have somebody come to you and say, Shorty, I want you to do this, and we're going to go after some big, say, car show, or what is the build that you would love to have somebody walk up to you and say, let's go do this, and you'd go, that's what I've always wanted to do?
Well, that would be it. I mean, you know what I want. I think you can read it in me. That's what I want. I want a customer to come in and say, I want to compete at a high level. This is the car I have. Can you do it for me? You know, I want to be able to have the guts to take on that responsibility. That's a big responsibility. You know, these shops that do that, my how do you say it? These guys are brave. You know, these guys are my hat goes off to them.
Yeah, they're
to
all
those
in.
guys.
Those are huge projects.
You know, they're all in, and the customer is got a big budget, and he expects a big budget car, a big budget look. You know,
a lot of responsibility.
It's a tremendous amount of responsibility, and I think I'm up to the task.
So if that guy comes in, what kind of customer do you ideally want to work with? When that car comes in, do you want them to be very hands-on, where they say, Shorty, I want you to do this, that, and the other? Or do you want them to just say, Shorty, here's a car, I just want to go win that award, just go do it? Which?
Well, that's what you want. You can't. It's although it's their money, and it's their car, and it's their say. You know, they're the boss. In other words, they're the boss, right? But there's a fine line between sometimes those customers wanting something that you don't, that you look at the vehicle and say, no, that's not going to look very good. And I mean, quite frankly, I just don't want to do that. So you have to have a good relationship with that individual, with that customer, to where he trusts you enough to say, okay, well, if you don't think it's going to look good, then we don't do it.
Well, that's good to hear, because I have heard you say, and I agree with this, that the right wheels and tires are huge. So you could do everything you are going to do on the body and paint and do the best in the world, and that guy makes a really stupid decision on those wheels and tires, and you have to be able to stand in there and say, listen, you said you want to go all the way, and that's not going to do it.
Right. Yeah, and you know, the longer you've been in this business, the easier it is. For example, like these big builders that have been doing it already for years, you know, they're a lot easier to, they can persuade the customer a little better, a little easier than, per se, some of us that haven't done that yet. Although some customers can be a little stubborn and say, no, that's what I want. But you know, if you're the better, if you're one of those builders that have already won lots of awards and stuff like that, you know, it's easier for you to, take the customer a different direction and put something that you think is going to look good.
Well, you're getting there, and you have your resume, so I'm hoping that for you. I'm hoping that you have enough exposure, and God knows the work is great. We're seeing it, so
appreciate it. Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing what's next for Shorty, and I hope you come back to Portland and we get a chance to visit with you.
Me too.
And specifically, here's some of those kind of car deals happening. So
yeah, I look forward to it as well, and hopefully it'll happen in the future. You asked me a question earlier that I didn't get to answer. It was how many employees did I have?
Yeah.
So before we did the show, I obviously had to leave. I put my shop under lock and key because I just feel uneasy of someone doing some work that I can't really see how it's going on. So
I asked your wife that question. She said the same thing. You leave, everything stops.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're seeing and hands on and doing it.
Yeah, I want to make sure that what they're doing is to my liking. I don't want to disappoint the customer, you know, and so that's the hardest part. So when I leave, the shop is closed. So that's about 3 years. So it's a little hard, you know, to get away from your shop,
Yeah.
knowing that you have customers waiting on you and expect.
Do you have contracts with the show and that kind of thing? I mean, as you're going through there, or is that something that you guys have to be committed to? That
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, you tell them that you're going to be there and do so much, then that's what you need to do. So yeah.
How does the contract work on the show? Is it a year-to-year thing? Do you got each year
It's
the
kind of a
network tells
year-to-year
you?
thing.
Then?
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of a year-to-year thing with the network. So you know, that's the way they want it. So that's the way we do it.
Well, that sounds good. I'm glad that it happened. I'm glad that because of it, we got to meet you and see what it is you do, and we're really impressed. And one thing I have to make sure that I tell you guys that don't know this guy is I've observed him around children and the way he interacts at the shows, and he's got a great heart for young people, and the way he interacts with them is beautiful. I mean, the car community in general, you see that with a lot of these really good car people, that they have that, and it's a natural with you. I love to see you interact, which lets me know you're probably a great dad and grandpa.
Well, I love to work with kids, and I've been working with kids for a long time. You know, at my shop, I took interns in and mentored them. And the first time I did it, it was just super. The feeling that you get, it was super. I was super excited, super happy, because I got approached by a local school. That said, you know, they had the program that I went to. So they said, you know, they're going to come here for so many weeks, and you're going to give them a grade. Like, I'm going to give them a grade? Man. So that took me back to the days when I was... The other thing that I was going to tell you was that, so when I was in high school, or school, period, those of you that are listening, that are kids, I'm telling you this because I went through it, and so I quit school. Like, the long story short, I was in 7th grade, and I quit school. I got a job. Believe it or not, I got a job. I went and I told them I was 18, and I had a job, and I quit school. But I had a lot of good people along the way that stepped in. I'll give you an example. The first time that I quit school, I had been gone for about a week and a half, and so I was an altar boy for a long time. And so our priest came to visit one day, and I had great news for this guy. You know, as soon as he walked in the door, I said, "Father Scott, I have great news for you." I was excited, and he said, "Let me say hi to your mom and dad, and we'll talk." So he went, and he said hi. We sat down. He said, "What's this good news you have?" I said, "I quit school. I got a job." And he looked at me like he had seen a ghost, and almost to the point where he wanted to eat me alive. And I'm thinking, what's wrong with this guy? He should be happy for me, right? Well, he was so mad at my mom and dad for letting me quit school that immediately he went and grabbed them and set them down on the couch and said, "You know, this isn't Mexico." Because I grew up in Mexico. I was born in Mexico. I came to this country looking for the American dream when I was 4 years old. And so he set them down, gave them a lecture for about 2 hours as to why they should let me quit school, why I needed school, and all those for 2 hours. So I got to say that I was mad because my mom and dad were happy that that's the way they grew up. You know, so they were happy that I quit school and I got a job. To them, it was like being a man, you know, being responsible. They didn't realize that he's not going to need school, you know. That's just their mentality, you know. And so, needless to say, I went back to school the next day, mad. So that year, when I went back to school, somehow or another, I went into the 8th grade, and they had a career day. First time I've ever seen it. So they had, in the hallway, they had these tables laid out, and I was, you know, kind of walking through them, and I was looking. There was business management. I saw this little brochure, it's about this big, that I still have today. So it was blue, and it said Transportation Institute. And it had a little square about this big, and it had a front end of a car with the hood open, and there was a kid looking in it, like bent over, like working on it. And I looked at it, and you know, me being around my brother-in-law, that he always tinkered with cars, and that's how I kind of got into it. I asked the guy that was standing there. I said, "What is this?" He said, "Well, this is a magnet school. They call them. That's what they called them at the time. Now they're trade schools or something like that." He said, "When you get to your high school, you can talk to your counselor, and they'll get you in this program." So that little brochure changed my life that day. So I couldn't wait to go to high school so I could go to that school. And that's the reason, that's the only reason I stayed in high school. Otherwise, I would have quit. And I wouldn't be married to the awesome wife I have today. I wouldn't be here talking to you. Because, you know, it's funny how the paths take their,
God used that man to get to you and help guide you through that.
Yes, and that's the reason I stayed in high school. And so in high school, I competed for, you know, like these kids did here today. Yeah. I competed for, you know, trophies, toolboxes, whatever. I was excited to be in it, and that's the reason I graduated high school. Yeah.
Wow.
Because of that program.
That is a good message.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about that too, because I didn't know that was coming, and I'm glad we did that. So, Shorty, thanks so much for taking the time with us and hanging out, and we're wishing you the best in the future with your business.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Larry. And like I said, if you ain't watching Rides Done Right, you ain't watching.
We'll see you next time.